And I want to welcome everybody in to the Fifth Dimension podcast, where we are attempting to live more mindfully in the day to day. Quite simply, make this world a little bit of a better place. And in context to this episode, make this universe a little bit of a better place. I'm your host, Evan McDermott, and I have an interesting topic to approach today. And we're looking beyond the realms of pandemic. We're looking at years and years and years into the future of human history and what are we going to be doing as a species when it comes to our relationship with outer space. And the question is, should we be industrializing outer space? And in particular, should we be industrializing, colonizing the moon? Now, I ask this because this week, as the week of, what's today? Today's the 9th. As of Monday, April 6th, 2020, Donald Trump signed an order encouraging the United States to mine the moon for minerals. Now, when we look at the question of should we be industrializing outer space, I believe we're not even looking at it from the correct lens. There's people who will argue for it, there are people who will argue against it, and I'm asking, are we approaching this from the right perspective, from the right frame of mind? I'm going to say, and I'm going to get into more of this later on after I introduce this a little bit more, but my thoughts are if we're approaching this from the idea of how we approach our Earth, of a finite resource, and we are all simply looking for a capitalistic gain as a means of fulfillment and looking at people as commodity instead of humans, then we are not doing the right thing in going to outer space to use the moon's resources. So let me read a little bit about the order here. On Monday, Trump signed the executive order calling the encouraging international support for the recovery and use of space resources. Basically a fancy word of saying we're getting shit done in space. The directive states that the 1967 Outer Space Treaty allows for the use of space resources on the moon, Mars, and elsewhere. Supportive policy regarding the recovery and use of space resources is important to the creation of a stable and predictable investment environment for the commercial space innovators and entrepreneurs, and it is vital to the long-term sustainability of human exploration and development of the moon, Mars, and other destinations, the order reads. It also states, outer space is a legally and physically unique domain of human activity, and the United States does not view space as a global commons. So this sounds a lot like the United States sort of views space as up for grabs right now. So this executive order directs the Secretary of State to lead a U.S. government effort to develop joint statements, bilateral agreements, and multilateral instruments with like-minded foreign states to enable safe and sustainable operations for the commercial recovery and use of space resources, and to object to any attempt to treat the 1979 Moon Agreement as expressing customary international law. The U.S. did not say the 1979 Moon Treaty, which says that non-scientific use of space resources must be governed by international regulations. In 2015, Congress passed a law specifically allowing American companies and citizens to use resources from the moon and asteroids. Now, clearly, just based off of that paragraph, when we're just looking at the perspective that the United States is taking on, we are looking at the moon as a commercial asset. That is what it's being treated as. And if we are going to look at the moon as a commercial asset, what are we getting ourselves into? There's one more paragraph here that I want to read. The order states, American industry and the industries of like-minded countries will benefit from the establishment of stable international practices by which private citizens, companies, and the economy will benefit from expanding the economic sphere of the human activity beyond the Earth. The president said, after braving the vast unknown and discovering the new world, our forefathers did not merely sail home, and in some cases, never to return. They stayed, they explored, they built, they guided, and through that pioneering spirit, they imagined all of the possibilities that few dared to dream. You know, I'm not against space exploration. I'm not against potentially using the moon as a betterment to human civilization, whatever that may look like. If we are going to become a galactic species per se, and I think that is in the realm of capabilities years down the line, probably not in our lifetimes by any means, but if we're just beginning to establish this relationship with space, what precedent are we setting here by treating space and the moon as a commercial asset? It talks about the economy. It talks about American industries. And if we are only looking at it from this perspective, we are screwed. Because we cannot. All right, first off, the economy is merely a construct of human social structures and human organization. Now, it is not even feasibly working sustainably for the Earth. We are ridding ourselves off of the Earth based on the way that we organize ourselves. I mean, do we not have extreme economic inequality? Do we not have 23,000 people a day dying of starvation? Do we not have 500,000 people alone in the United States living on the street when we have 1.5 million vacant homes? You know, if we're going to use the moon's resources, we should be using them out of necessity and not desire to boost up our economy further. You see, the thing is, our economy is built on a system that is designed to continually grow. Now, when you have finite resources on a planet, you cannot continually grow in the sense of consumerism and industrialism because you run out of things to industrialize. We need to learn to have a more symbiotic relationship with the Earth, because if we don't, we're going to rid it of its resources, and we're going to take the same approach to the moon and any other, universal, whatever it be, Mars or anywhere else in the universe. We're going to take that same approach. We need to have a symbiotic relationship here. We can't simply continually exploit our wants and desires, or to fulfill those. If you go to NASA's page, actually, NASA has a page on how moon mining could work. Across history, human development has relied upon the finite resources available on Earth, but the moon, a seemingly barren rock, may actually be the treasure trove of rare resources vital to Earth's future. And now, nations are looking upwards to a potential lunar gold rush. So, it talks about why mining the moon. It talks about water, vital for supporting life and agriculture beyond Earth, can be converted into rocket fuel. We have enough water on Earth. We just simply do not make it accessible to the majority of the population. Same goes with food. We have enough food to feed 10 billion people, yet, as I said, 23,000 die a day of starvation. So, if we're taking moon water, whatever it may be, we're going to start putting it in rocket fuel. Are we still not going to have a water shortage? Who is going to benefit from this water? Are the thirsty going to benefit from it? Probably not. It also talks about helium-3, rare element sought for future developments in energy sector like nuclear fusion. Nuclear power needs to be done with order. We can't continually use nuclear power. Looking at nukes, right? Only an idiotic species would create something that has the power to, at the push of a button, destroy us collectively. Why would we ever create something like that? Sure, we have the capabilities, but when we can use things such as solar power, wind power, all of these renewable energy sources that we are discovering that work, we need to be using those. Helium-3, nuclear power is not sustainable. It's certainly better than coal mines, I suppose, but we should not be reliant fully on nuclear power. And it also talks about rare earth metals. The 15 what's that say? Lanthanides, as well as scandium and yttrium, used in modern electronics and mostly produced in China. So it talks about smartphones, computers, medical equipment. All of these rely on valuable materials. And so it talks about using these for our metals. And it says we have about 15 to 20 years worth left on Earth. Now, the same thing goes with smartphones and computers. Why do we not build the optimal phone that's built to last instead of having to replace ours once every 1 or 2 years? Because it simply does not work in a consumer economy where people are supposed to continually spend money, are supposed to continually want and need more stuff. So if we give you a long-term solution, that doesn't benefit economy. We need to stop looking at things in terms of economy and start looking at things in terms of practicality and sustainability. I don't understand. I understand how we got here, but anyone who can start to think rationally outside of this constructed system we're living in realizes that we can organize differently. We don't have to take this approach of economy to all of our endeavors. Now, it talks about, again, on the NASA page, 3D printers going up there and having little robot miners establishing a lunar base. And finally, it talks about the considerations. It talks about the impact on future generations. And it's saying it'll help the future generations, whatever. It talks about the importance of the moon's role in human culture. And what would that play? And I think we all hold some serious sentimental value to the moon. And it also asks to consider who would the stakeholders be in lunar heritage. You have a guy like Elon Musk, right? SpaceX. And I'm not saying the technology that he's bringing about and what he's doing is bad. But who are the stakeholders in this moon heritage? I mean, it would have to be every single person on Earth. Everybody has an attachment to the moon. I don't care who you are. So are we going to treat it like we treat the Earth, where we allow people to hoard billions and billions of dollars, and most of the people, 99% of people, don't see the benefit? That's what it's going to be like with the moon if we do not vastly change our society, vastly change what we are doing, and instead, why are we continuing sort of this conquering mentality? Like, that is what we are establishing by even, thinking about and considering going to the moon. If we do attempt some sort of industrialization of the moon, it can't be done in the way we currently organize ourselves. We have that extreme exploitation of the working class and people who are impoverished. If we can't have poverty, we can't have starvation. We can't have, this uneven distribution of resources and expect to be successful in terms of our relationship with outer space. If we don't have it figured out on Earth, how do you think we're going to figure it out in outer space? Huh? Why are we going to continue living in a system that divides human beings by a false nationalistic construct, by religions that simply use you to control you, and a government system that exploits us and doesn't give us any freedom to live in a way that benefits who we are as human beings and catches our interest? We need to embrace each other as people and come together as one humanity. Recognize the sacredness that exists on Earth, the sacredness that exists in the universe, on the moon, and realize that when we choose to live in a needs-based society, the Earth will take care of us. It'll give us enough to survive. If we learn to adapt to what the Earth is telling us, what it provides us with, we have enough resources. We have 10 billion people's worth of food with our modern technologies. We have enough water to feed the planet. It's because we choose to allow people to hoard mass resources is the reason we have the situation we're in right now. Look at this pandemic that we're going through. Coronavirus. All of these people losing employment, myself included, losing funds In this world, money is equal to survival. It is, you use money to buy your food, to pay your rent, to have those physiological needs met. And now that's taken away. Pandemic. Who is taking care of us? Nobody. We don't have access to any sort of resources anymore. The government, the United States government in particular, is going to give you one $1,200 check, whatever. Not to get super into the details of that, but we need all of these things, physiological needs being met. And in an economic system, those aren't considered rights. We need to redefine rights. And when we start to include physiological needs of food, water, shelter as basic human rights, and everybody has access to that, that is when we can begin to look at something like the moon and say, oh, what sort of resources do they have? How can that help us as a civilization move forward and continue to come together as one humanity? You know, the system we're living in is not going to it's not going to create equality and allow you, for example, to be one of those stakeholders in a lunar heritage. You think you're seeing a dime of the billions of the, besides maybe what your smartphone will be, it'll be some of the metal. You think you're seeing a dime of the riches of that? No, of course not. More people are just, we're going to see a continually greater divide between this ruling elite and the people at the bottom. That's all it's going to continually allow people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos to make more and more and more and more and more money because they discovered these vast resources that we don't have any way of even considering mining for ourselves. What, am I going to build a rocket ship and go to the moon and start mining the moon materials? No. It's not like a backyard farm that I could start up and be like, oh, I'm just going to move my business over to the moon. It doesn't work like that. So we really need to be thinking about this question from the approach of what happens when we industrialize it, who is seeing the benefit of it. And the ruling elite class that is going to be the ones in charge of this operation is not going to think like this. They're not. It's simply not going to happen. And unfortunately, this is a story, again, that got swept under the rug. It's not, you're not going to hear too much about it because we serve no benefit in hearing about this. What good does it do us? Because we're not seeing a dime of the moon, resources it's given us. It's as simple as that. So, think deeply about this question. And again, this can be a call to action for us. We can say, hey, I'm not going to stand for what is going on here. And it can help us. We're in a time with this pandemic where we have an opportunity to reconstruct our society, reconstruct our lives personally. What is it you want to be doing? How can you follow your passions? How can you continue down the path of self-development? And, reconstruct our society in a way that is beneficial to all human beings. We've seen the economy come crashing down with this pandemic. Crashing down. Shows all of its holes. Why are we reliant on money when we can simply create a system that rids it as the main construct? We don't need to live by constructs. We can live by humanity and compassion. When we're compassionate to one another, that's where we see progress. When we're at peace, that's where we see true progress. If we're going to go divide and conquer outer space, we have no hope as a species. And, some alien, smart, intelligent species from a distance away, once it sees us starting to do that, it's probably going to take us out because then we become a threat. So think about this deeply and decide how you want to approach it. So that's going to wrap up this episode. You want to donate? Go to the PayPal. It's there. Please give us a rating. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube if you're watching there. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. Helps us. I love it. I love you guys. So yeah, that's about going to wrap up this episode. Find us on social medias as well. Instagram, Adam McDermott at the Fifth Dimension Podcast. Got some good interviews coming up. Looking forward to them. So, yeah, take care. Explore the depths of the universe, and that can be done by just going inside yourself. So, do it. See ya.